As an anxious person, why would an avoidant like to be with me? They like that the anxious person is so fixated on the avoidant, but not completely.
You want somebody that does challenge you to some extent.
The fact that anxious people are unsure of themselves is safety inducing. Everything that anxious people think is a bad thing is actually a good thing.
Being needy and clingy is also safety inducing.
So everything that avoidants complain about.
It's so much beyond comfortable. It's safe.
An avoidant needs an anxious person.
Absolutely.
Anxious people have a lot to offer.
More than they realize.
Yeah. What is more important to me? Having power and control over this other person versus
learning to trust that they won't run if I don't control them.
Hi guys. Welcome to another episode of Attachment Diaries. As you can see, we're actually on a holiday, but you guys left us so many comments under our previous videos, we couldn't help but want to get back to you. So today we're going to answer one of your guys' question. Here's the comment. As an anxious person, the question that drives me the most is, why would an avoidant like to be with me? Why do avoidants choose anxious partners?
It's a good question.
Why? Why do they do? I mean, because avoidants are all about independence, right?
Yeah.
Yet they go for someone who's not independent at all.
And is going to stick to them.
So why choose someone so different than you are?
I think it's an interesting question. The answer to which is probably pretty layered and complex. You know, I think this cliche of opposites attract, I think has truth to it. And avoidants are generally understood as being the ones that pull away and want the hyper independence and all that. And then the anxious person is like more the clinger, wants to stay close. So I think there's, for avoidance, there are a lot of things about somebody like that, the qualities of an anxious person that are very appealing.
Because anxious people usually have the self-doubt, right? They don't realize what they actually bring to the table.
Yeah, they're often very doubtful of their own value even. Because they might identify as, oh, I'm just clingy and needy and desperate. Like, why would they
I used
like
to think
me?
I'm so shy.
Yeah.
So is that part of the, like, is it a bad thing or is it a good thing that anxious people are a bit insecure?
I think for avoidance, it's actually an appeal. Because we're very insecure in our own ways, and we like to have a partner we believe we can control and won't abandon us. So when anxious people are more unsure of themselves, of their own value, maybe even, for an avoidant partner, that can be safety inducing. Like, oh, this person is not going to leave me. This person is going to stick around.
So the fact that anxious people are a bit unsure of themselves is safety inducing to avoidance.
Yeah.
So that's why they choose people who are a bit unsure of themselves.
Yes.
I guess that makes sense.
So
yeah.
Where they identify themselves, anxious people, as, oh, I don't have value maybe because I'm so insecure, is actually a desirable trait.
Yeah. I didn't used to think of it this way, but I guess I do see it now.
Yeah.
Like, I do see that it's like a way of making the other person comfortable. And it's also like opening up this taboo. You don't have to keep your guard up the whole time, right? It's like
the taboo around
being vulnerable.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's very much an appeal. I think if you bundled these traits of anxious people in a package, like a couple of the keywords that summarize at least what avoidance experience them as, I would say.
What makes anxious people appealing?
It is them having insecurities, them having self-doubt. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous,
Yeah.
but them maybe questioning their value, them being needy and clingy is also safety inducing.
So everything that avoidants complain about.
Yes, but they but okay.
So first you choose someone with these qualities, and then you complain about them being this way.
Yes, but I think the complaining comes after. It's about how much, I think. But just to clarify, it's not that avoidants are crazy predatory,
Feed
just
on
like,
weakness.
yeah, and just want somebody they can mold. It's that they themselves have their own insecurities, and when somebody displays all these anxious qualities, they feel safe. They feel, if I put my bets on this person, there's a very low chance, because of their insecurity, because of the seagulls are squawking. We don't know whether this will come through in the end or not. Hopefully not. But all these traits add up to something, a very appealing package that helps cope with an avoidant's own insecurities.
So it feels comfortable.
It's so much beyond comfortable. It's safe. It runs a lot deeper. Yes.
Okay. What is safe?
So safe from being left for somebody else, safe from being just abandoned in general, safe from being given up on. Because at the beginning of a relationship, especially in the honeymoon phase, what we experience, what our coaching clients describe, they have this amazing honeymoon phase. They get to know this person, they're so perfect, and then the cracks begin to show, and then they chase this old idea of who this person is.
When anxious people tend to be a bit more secure initially, right? And then the avoidant makes them insecure often.
And with the avoidant, they are initially
are
more confident.
Giving as well.
More giving.
Yeah,
and
then
more
open.
They might reveal that they struggle with depression, or that they have financial trouble, or whatever it might be.
So they like insecurities, but not too much, not too crazy insecurities. They like the need for reassurance, but not too much need for reassurance. And they like that the anxious person is so fixated on the avoidant, but not completely. It's like,
it's a balance.
Yeah.
But both have their extremes. So an avoidant person, it will also become apparent that they are also troubled and are struggling with it, whatever it is, and don't have it all together. And they also hope what they see in an anxious person. So let's just, what I saw in you, right, was somebody that when I finally displayed my struggles, right, that you wouldn't just run away. And
that I wouldn't just bail and be like, oh, it's too much to handle.
There's a certain nurturing quality that anxious people bring to the table.
So anxious people are caring.
They're caring.
Or they're giving.
Yes, and loving, and they're often fixers.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
So they play opposite parts.
Yeah. They take responsibility, right, and come out of their way.
Yes.
To help.
Might go above and beyond.
Yeah. Did I do that?
Yeah, I think you very much did. I mean, I think there are different areas, strengths that everybody has. I know for some of people I've worked with, they might be more financially giving, or they might be more emotionally giving, or pragmatically. They fix things, or they do acts of service.
Yeah.
But with you and I think it was very much your nurturing, caring qualities that really spoke to me.
So I'd be like bringing you food.
I think that's just the tip of the iceberg.
When I sensed you were depressed, I wouldn't come down on you. I'd try to lift you up.
and you were curious to understand why I struggled and what it was about and how can you support me, you know? And it was, I guess what can't be overstated is if I didn't have you along that journey, I don't know where I'd be. And I think a lot of avoidants are kind of in that situation that if they didn't have this partner, often an anxiously attached person that fills in their weak areas, they can spiral, they can self-isolate. So having that person that is so anxiously attached.
An anxious person, like an avoidant, needs an anxious person.
Yes, absolutely. It's not just, and they play it off like they don't care.
It's a bit of a self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it runs
the whole
really deep.
saving fantasy is not just a fantasy. Like it actually is the case.
It absolutely. I've seen it so many times. I'm sure you have with your clients too. It's just they're fixers often, and the avoidant person is just in their own way in desperate need of that fixing. But you can't just dive in and grab all your tools and be like
I know better. Let me figure out your life for you.
That
you have to do it gently, but they do it. And I've seen some of my clients, they like figured out the anxious partner figured out the avoidance finances like 100%. And because they had the knowledge and the experience, so they could do it for them. Okay, so to summarize, it's the vulnerability that is safety inducing, right? Because this person's not going to abandon me, this person's not going to give up on me. And then there is the aspect of I can benefit from this relationship because of all the things that this anxious person brings to the table. So anxious people actually have a lot to offer. Tremendously.
Like more than they realize.
Yeah. But do avoidants play it down? Do they play down the benefits that
oh my God, like yes.
To keep the anxious person doubting themselves.
Yes.
That is so mean.
I mean, mean is being light about it. Yeah, I think you hit a really important point here. And that is, it's a bit tragic because an avoidant will say, I don't care, right? And be abandoning and rejecting, like, oh, if this doesn't suit you, go find someone else. But they don't actually feel that way about it. They're actually terrified of losing this person. But in an effort to maintain power and control, because they are so terrified of losing this person, of being abandoned, they will resort to even that, of downplaying how much,
Is that what you did? I mean,
no, not me. I didn't do it. I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, what is more important to me, having power and control over this other person versus
learning to trust that they won't run if I don't control them.
But anxious people do the same thing.
In their own way, right? So there is this element of control that goes both ways, and it's about, as always, finding a good balance so that you can build the trust on both ends and finally relinquish some of that, like, I'm going to manage you and make sure you do what I'm afraid you won't if I don't control you.
So avoidants choose anxious people on purpose, or that's who they are attracted to?
Yeah, it's who they're attracted to. I don't, I didn't like meet you and have this list of like, gotta be doubting herself, unsure, warm and caring. Like, we met and something clicked and you feel it, right? And I'm sure for you on the anxious side, you had your own version of that.
I think with the whole doubting yourself thing, I was doubting myself in a lot of the areas where you were more confident and vice versa. There were areas where you were more insecure or doubtful of yourself, where I was more confident. So it felt like we can learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe why this dynamic is so appealing. It's like we have this instinct
It's the
for
ultimate
what's good
healing
for
fantasy.
us. Yeah.
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 It is an instinct for what's good for us.
So what else? What are the other things that are appealing about anxious people?
I think deep down there is this desire as an avoidant, a person with an avoidant attachment style, to be saved in their own way. I don't believe this happens on a conscious level for the most part. I think it's everybody has their past, their trouble, their trauma to whatever degree, and a lot of it's subconscious, not processed, but instinctively there is some invisible hand guiding you to a person that you feel could help you deal with
Could
whatever,
save you from
your inner demons, whatever has not been dealt with. With the anxious people, just there's this overall package that feels like this is home. Like this person can help me, and I can help them. It does go both ways.
Yeah.
I think if you broke that down into characteristics, it would be somebody that is maybe more timid, more shy, clingy, needy, exhibits a lot of coming towards you or chasing behaviors, being like in a way reaffirming their bond to you
Like
or
eager to
attraction
bond.
to you. Yeah.
I was definitely more eager to
Yes.
bond, and you were playing it cool.
Yeah.
Being distant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's those things and more, I would say, that are really appealing to avoidance.
It is funny because these are all things I used to be insecure about. And it took me a long time to wrap my head around, okay, that's what.
So how did you come to realize that
these
they were
are strengths,
quality?
right?
Yes.
In many different settings, because they're not just qualities in romantic settings. They're, I would argue, like even in professional settings, being willing to like back off and do something the other person's way can be actually beneficial because you can cooperate.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also something that avoidants like about anxious people, that like we're willing to follow sometimes to some degree in some areas.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That if I feel threatened by something and I say, no, like this is the way we should do something, or even like whatever the movie we should
like
watch.
the adaptability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
of preferences.
fine, we'll watch what you want.
Yeah. It took me years to be like, okay, I can't watch your movies anymore. I'm bored.
not to say it's always a woman, right,
Yeah.
who is anxious, and the man who's avoidant. It can very much be the opposite too.
Yes.
Goes both ways.
Because it goes through like all these areas. It's like what movie we're going to watch, what are we going to eat, what are we going to do, where are we going to go,
Yes.
how are we going to live our life, right?
Small and big decisions. In a romantic context, with us, what were these experiences, or some of these experiences where you realized, oh, he actually likes that?
I could see that you liked it.
How did I
On
give
your
it away?
face.
No. I tried so hard.
It would make you happy. It would make you smile. You get in a better mood. And it's nice to do something nice for another person. And it's that giving quality, right?
Yeah.
That anxious people have. And you also said that anxious people avoidants don't want to be given up on. So I imagine that goes hand in hand with the giving, that like anxious people can be giving, and then when the avoidant's not receiving it, they're still gonna continue being giving.
They're gonna continue trying.
Yeah.
It's like a pit bull that just won't let go.
Good thing or a bad thing?
It is so safety inducing, but it can be a double-edged sword.
For the anxious people, but for the avoidants, it's like endless benefits, no?
No, because what a lot of couples can break up over is too much clinginess, too much neediness, too much closeness. Because the avoidants have their own emotional blocks, let's say, where
So it's like not at their pace.
yes, it's too fast, and then they push back and push back and push back, and at some point they say, "This isn't working."
So you have to dose the giving.
Yeah, and that's where an anxious person might sometimes struggle finding
So
that.
like all the anxious qualities are qualities avoidants are actually looking for in a partner.
Yeah,
But you have to give them the right dose.
yeah.
It's like medicine.
It's like medicine. Yeah,
But if you overdose, it's
yeah.
not helping you heal.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you need
yeah,
to go to the hospital.
right. Avoidant hospital.
So the anxious people are very appealing to avoidance. They just need to dose themselves.
Yeah. They need to understand that they have all these qualities.
Yeah. And they have to understand these are qualities.
Yeah.
Because I think they're kind of just are this way, or
Yeah.
that's what they think of it, or that's
Yeah.
what I used to think of it, like that I just am this way, and that's what I'm supposed to do, or that's how I'm supposed to be like, giving. And yeah, it just is not sustainable.
Yeah, you can't definitely do it.
Yeah.
But I think understanding as an anxious person to understand
That it's a
these
quality.
these are qualities, and I need and in a sense they're like skill sets.
Yes.
And if I learn how to regulate them sufficiently, I can find my way into my avoidance or partner's heart.
Yeah.
And make things work.
I think the way it worked for me was that I realized you have to earn it, that I can't just guess your intentions. And then if I would just predict them and give you what you were wanting without you having to ask for it, that felt unfair. So like there was this one time you were hanging out with your friends, and I knew that you were planning to go to a spa, but you didn't ask me to come with you. Yeah, I was like, well, then I'm not coming. And I made sure that I didn't pack my bikini or a towel or anything. And that I went to the library to study or something like that. But I knew you were going to call me last minute and ask me,
do you want to come to the spa?
Yeah. So if I had gone with my like adaptability giving nature, right?
Yeah.
I would have ended up going along. But I guess this time I felt like,
yeah.
And you did. You called me and you were like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, I don't have my stuff, you know, so I can't. And then you were like, "Oh, okay," and then it was really awkward because you were like the third wheel with another couple at a spa, at the hot tub, because you were telling me about it, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, so it's also very important for anxious people to learn to dose it, not
To
just
learn the
over
value
giving. Yeah,
of
exactly.
the stuff, like of what they have to offer.
Yeah.
And if they don't understand the value of what they have to offer, avoidance will just exploit it.
Yeah.
And
It's sad.
without knowing, right?
Yeah.
Because they're also just on rails. So about this whole adaptability, letting avoidance have their way. I used to think that, like, I feel like, oh, I'm such a pushover, that like I can just let people convince me to do something different than I wanted to do, or yeah. But that's you mentioned that as one of the qualities, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit more about why that is such a good thing, actually?
I would say
Giving.
it's primarily because for avoidance, they have their own insecurities, their own struggles. So let's say for me,
Yeah.
I had triggers around certain types of content, certain types of movies.
Yeah.
That just made me feel they were essentially too confrontational for me, right? They exposed some truth, they exposed some reality that conflicted with the narrative I had about my past and were threatening.
Mm-hmm.
So you might suggest a film and I just, no, I don't like it, whatever made up reason of some kind. And had you pushed too hard and said, no, we have to watch this movie,
Mm-hmm.
I really,
You would have distanced yourself.
I would have.
You wouldn't invite me for another movie night.
Well, let's say we then watched it.
Yeah.
I would have felt uncomfortable, triggered, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have enjoyed it. And if that kept on happening,
Mm-hmm.
at some point I would say we just want different things, or we're not the same, or something to that effect.
So anxious people have this quality of prioritizing having a good time, or keeping things pleasant over getting their way, over like being particular about something.
I mean, you tell me. Like, it sounds an awful lot like it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it seems logical that
Not to
not to not to avoid that.
Yes. and so to answer the question, I think the fact that you do adapt and are like, okay, like we could just watch
because
something
like a
you
movie night
watch.
is for the purpose of the company. It's not for the purpose of watching particular movies. But to you, it'd be more for the purpose of watching particular movies.
Not necessarily, but it's about avoiding a trigger. So if to you watching what I like, whatever garbage it was at the time.
I never let you watch horror movies. They were too scary, and you know.
No, I didn't watch so much horror.
Thrillers are too scary.
Thrillers, maybe. Yeah. So the fact that you were willing to do that, to me, was a huge relief.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have to watch the thing. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the things that were triggering to me. So, and we can just watch something else and have some popcorn and have a good time. And, you know, it may not even be a great movie, like you said, it's about the company, but it means a lot. It meant a lot to me that you were willing to come my way and adapt, because it helps me avoid.
So it's so weird, because to me these things are just like like not a big deal,
you know.
But to you, they are a big deal.
Maybe ultimately, right? Anxious people who believe themselves to be insecure are actually the more secure ones, and avoidant people who pretend to be so confident are the insecure ones. I think
I did come to that conclusion at some point.
To some extent, I think it's true.
Because if you are more secure, you're more relaxed.
Yeah.
And then you just don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
What you do or what. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to a degree, right? Because you also have your needs.
Yeah.
And if these are not being met at all, and like if you're just adapting and the avoidant wants to talk once a week or like sends one text a week,
and you never have anything you want, it also isn't healthy. It isn't sustainable.
So what about being pushy?
Like, when anxious people are pushy?
Yeah. Is it something that is a quality, or is it a problem? Or is it one of the same thing, that when it's done in the right dose,
it's about dosage. Yes.
It's about dosage. So like, do avoidants like being pushed?
Yes.
Yes.
In the right dosage. If you had never pushed back at all, and had just endlessly adapted, I think it
wouldn't be interesting.
It wouldn't be interesting. You want somebody that does challenge you to some extent. It helps you respect them, right? When somebody stands up for themselves and says, I'm not watching one of your stupid movies again. We're watching what I want, finally. Like, we watched Gone with the Wind, right? It's this 3-hour classic.
I was so impressed that you were willing to watch that with me.
Yeah, but it was a phenomenal film and an amazing soundtrack, by the way. And it really, really left an impression on me, and I love it. Yeah. You know, it's truly timeless. And had you not pushed for it, I think, and we just consumed.
Always went with what you wanted.
Yeah, it just, and you know, we're talking about movies as an example here, but
Yeah,
there are
but
many other aspects.
It's the same in the aspect of relationship,
I mean, like whether it's activities
or like the seriousness of a relationship too,
the
right?
seriousness.
Yeah, like moving in together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So even this like pushiness is actually a quality.
Yeah.
What about chasing?
Chasing.
Because like avoidants say, "Don't chase me," right? And like,
I need
"Don't
space.
chase me, I need space."
It can be BS, I would say.
When they say I need space, what do they need?
Sometimes it can genuinely be needing space. You just emotionally you're too
overloaded.
riled up.
Yeah.
You need to calm down. But after a while, there's definitely a secret hope of their
This
anxious
person's
partner
gonna come and
reaching
drag me out of.
or reach out and
Yeah.
we'll make up, kiss
Yeah.
and make up, right? It's not in the heat of the moment. They might feel like, okay, this is it forever, but afterwards that can change.
Or like, leave me alone right now. I don't want to talk to anybody. But 15 minutes later.
Yeah, it can actually be in a very short time frame too. Because people sometimes, when they say like, oh, I want 2 weeks of space or something,
Yeah.
and avoidance says that. Sometimes, yeah, I mean, if things are really severe in the relationship, that can be the case. But if it's a bit more mundane of an argument that you had, then it might literally be 15 minutes of space that they actually wanted. So all of the things that avoidance will complain about in the right dose are actually things they crave.
So chasing, pushing,
Clinginess,
insecurity,
insecurities,
need for reassurance.
yes.
Okay. So everything that anxious people think is a bad thing is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Just you can't overdo it.
Yeah. If you take it to an extreme and you're just totally needy, off the charts, out of control, let's say, then yes, it becomes, that's why it's a double-edged sword. It then becomes a problem.
Yeah, I would say it's the same for anxious people.
With avoidance.
Yes.
If they become too controlling, right?
Or if they become too cold and too distant.
Yeah.
That's also not good.
Yeah.
And it just escalates the problem, right?
Yeah.
But I think anxious people also benefit from having the space and from being empowered to be a bit more independent.
Yeah.
Versus avoidance can benefit from being pushed to be a little bit more dependent.
Yes.
So it's like when it's balanced, you complement each other.
Yeah.
But when one person gets out of hand, then it becomes a problem and conflict and stuff. And so that's what it was in our relationship too, because you had times when you just distance yourself.
I think that was very much us, and also the journey that led to it being more balanced for both of us.
So there's also an element of testing, right? The avoidance test anxious people, and that this whole not giving up means passing the tests.
Yeah, I think avoidance can be, unfortunately, sometimes a bit too troubled. I think that was the case with me as well, that I would, like, we had 3 breakups, right? Well, that I initiated. And I think the pushing away can reach a point, like the testing, like if I push you away, will you come back?
Yeah.
Like prove your loyalty in a way.
So that's what it is, prove your loyalty.
I wouldn't say it's strictly that, you know, I don't think it can be simplified quite so much.
So many.
Because there were things I was upset about, things that weren't working right, but that factor definitely is in there somewhere. So when an anxious person proves the loyalty, it's like, oh great, like I'm truly never going to be abandoned. But it can be a bit of this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you have abandonment issues, then you're reenacting them to some extent.
You keep on pushing the anxious person away until they give up and walk away.
Yeah. And then the conclusion is, of course, they were ultimately going to be abandoned. I can't trust anybody. They're going to abandon me in the end anyway. And therefore, I shouldn't love, I shouldn't open up my heart, and so on and so forth.
So avoidants choose anxious partners because they're everything they want and need.
Yeah.
And that's who they're looking for. And
Yeah.
so everything that I used to think was bad was actually equality.
Yeah.
Just that it was also exploitable, I guess. So it wasn't so much that I needed to dose myself. I mean, I did need to dose it, or it was about learning to make someone earn what you're willing to give. Boundaries, yeah. Like with the spa, like it's in experiences like this. Like after that, you did always ask me sooner because you learned. Like I have to make sure she packs her bikini before she leaves the house.
I have to give her notice.
Yes, yeah. I have to include her in my plans. Otherwise, she's not going to be available.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't even have to communicate it so openly and directly. It was in the punishment
that I learned.
That you learned, yeah. So anxious people have all the qualities avoidants need, just that they lack the boundaries often, right?
Yeah.
Because they can be so giving and chasing and loving that they forget, or maybe it's because they're blind to the value, they're blind to what they bring to the table.
Yeah.
So that is that one final puzzle piece. Boundaries or willingness to not make it happen, to let the avoidant reveal whether they care or not.
Yeah. I think that's a whole different topic we can get into.
Yeah. I think we got all the most important things. And the sun is setting, so
it's getting
I'm getting goosebumps.
A bit chilly, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us at this beautiful bay in Greece.
Yeah, in Greece, it's lovely here.
Yeah.
And please leave us a comment about any questions you might have for a future video that we can pick out. Leave a like if you found this helpful. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, please leave us a review and follow for more content like this. That's all from us for now. So thanks again and see you next time.
Bye.